Hi, I'm Nate Sutton. I work in the Precision Department at Eldon C. Stutzman in Hills, Iowa. My specialty is Raven, and today we're going to go over setting a Raven RCM up for a standard valve and hydrant system. So this is the base RCM control unit right here. In the box, you will find 3 magnets and 3/4 inch bolts, and they are used to actually mount the RCM to a flat piece of steel. You just screw them in and tighten them up. The RCM magnets are strong enough that I have mounted them on 6x6 square tube and they do not fall off. The next step in the assembly, this is the actual RCM harness. The 2 big plugs are what actually plugs into the RCM, and they are color coded. The gray one plugs into the gray side. The big black one plugs into the black side. And they also include a dust cap that goes into the center. The center port is not used in this application. We use the center port when we get into multi-product applications and we need more inputs and outputs. One of the really nice things about this RCM setup is almost all of the plugs are unique. So it's almost virtually impossible to plug this in wrong. This is the end of the RCM harness, and that's where we're going to plug our front extension harness into. Front extension harness has a stainless steel end that plugs into your tractor, a fuse holder that actually protects the RCM, a master switch connector, and then the John Deere style connector that actually plugs into the RCM harness. It's as simple as picking the right connector, and on the back side of this connector there's 2 little divots, and they go with the clip, and that locks them in. Same with this one. When you're done locking them in, clip the red and the white ahead and it locks them together so they can't be pulled apart on the toolbar. This is the terminator harness that comes with the front extension kit. It's the same connector. We have to terminate the end of the line so the CAN bus is happy. This one is just a dust plug. The terminator does not use high current power. Lock the caps in so it doesn't accidentally fall off. And we're hooked up to the front extension harness now to go up into the tractor. This is the product harness that goes with the RCM. I selected a 6-section product harness to show everybody this. This is capable of doing 6 sections. There's 2 pressure transducer connections, a master valve connection, a master on-off connection, and a flow meter connection. If you have an HP system, which is the pump on the Vortex cooler, there's a connector for the control valve that runs that, and then there's also a separate pressure transducer one for the HP system. This is a 47-pin connector on this side that actually connects to the 47 pin right here. It's keyed. You cannot push it on wrong, and don't force it. It goes on very easily when you get the keys lined up. On the front extension harness, there's 2 high current power fuses back here that also help protect the valves down on the line. This is the master switch harness. On this harness, you have a gray connector right here that plugs into the front extension. You have your foot pedal master switch harness right there. And then this one is for implement steering constant power. If you are not running instant implement steering on your machine, you do not need to plug this into anything. On the front extension harness that plugs into the tractor, plugs into the gray one right here. It's keyed, so you cannot plug it in wrong. And fits together like that. The last piece is the master pedal. This goes in your cab. This enables and disables the system. It plugs in to that connector right there. This has to be in the cab for you to enable and disable the system. Raven does not allow an on-screen switch or not to have a master switch in the system. This bracket right here can mount above your IBBC connector on your tractor, and this gray plug for the foot pedal on the tractor side will mount right through the hole, and you can leave it permanently mounted on the tractor and not have to have it dangling by your SCVs or anything. But it is also included in the foot pedal switch kit. So with our front extension harness that comes in the kit, This is a dust shield you can use when the bar is not hooked up to a tractor to keep the pins from being damaged. Your IBC connector in the back of your tractor will look similar to this. Today I'm using a Raven Viper 4 monitor just for demonstration. The actual screens we'll see will look almost identical on any brand of monitor. So inside the front extension harness, there's two big pins. The biggest pin goes to the top, always plugs in. We will get lights on our RCM. They'll turn red, be red at first, and they'll turn green. This just means it's loading. On almost all displays under the UT, it will have a bar that will tell you what our progress is of the object pool loading in, so the RCM's loading on the monitor currently. So once the UT is loaded on your display, which can take a while, the lights on your RCM, you'll have green. Yellow means that we don't have a program in there. So we'll begin programming this. Profile name, you can name it whatever you want. You can name it after your toolbar, you can name it after an operator, you can name it after the tractor, whatever works for you. I'm going to call this a test. For our machine type, we are going to pick NH3 tool for this application. Obviously, we can do a pull-behind sprayer, self-propelled sprayer, liquid fertilizer tool. We can do air seeders, we can do self-propelled sprayers, we can do dry spreaders. You can even put it on a planter and do row clutches, or you can have this just to be a scale head in your cab. The green squiggly arrow up in the right-hand corner always takes you to the next screen. So now we have our profile name put in there, what we're doing. Now we're going to put our width of our toolbar in there. I'm going to use 60 foot for this application. So in this application, we only have one RCM installed, and we're only doing one product. There are unlocks available where we can do up to 5 products with this unit. But for anhydrous, 99% of the time we'll only do one. Now we're going to pick our application mode for anhydrous. NH3 is just a regular cooler. NH3 HP Plus would be a vortex cooler with a boost pump on it. Hit my squiggly line. We're going to hit the next to go to the next page. Aux in enabled. We do not use this function on anhydrous. It does allow, if you want to, on a John Deere machine or a Case machine, you can actually set up a button on your armrest to be the master on and off. The problem with this is both product lines make you do it every time you restart the tractor. So if you shut the tractor off, get out of the cab, work on something, come back after lunch, whatever you're doing, you have to re-enable that button every time. We'll go to the next page. Now we're going to pick how many sections we have in our toolbar. I'm just going to pick 2 sections. If we have equal width sections, the RCM will automatically split it 30 foot and 30 foot. So it'll automatically enter the total width of the bar automatically for you. If we back it up, let's say we don't have equal width sections. We uncheck that box. So like on a 17 or 19 knife bar, we would not have equal width sections. We can count the number of knives on each side of our bar. So let's say the left side of our bar has 35 foot, the right side of our bar has 25 foot. We hit the next button. Auxiliary drivers. We will not be using those in this application. On some other applications, we can actually put a switch on the main RCM page and actually run lights, winches, all kinds of stuff on the back of it, but this application we will not be doing that. So all the boxes should say none. This is our summary to make sure that the sections are set up correctly. If we did have an incorrect width from the very first number we put in, it would tell us right here and we could not continue on. We would have to go back and fix it. We'll go on to the next page. Here's where we're going to set our pressure transducers up. I do not have any here right now. If we do it, we do the drop-down box. Raven pressure transducers are always 0 to 250 PSI. We select the Raven pressure transducer. In a later step, it will actually confirm that the pressure transducer is hooked up and that it is correct. Because I don't have any, I'm going to hit none right now. Hit squiggly arrow back. You can have up to 2 transducers on this system. Here it says 3, but in the anhydrous setup, only the first 2 are applicable. If you have a height switch located on your bar, that is actually on the product harness. There is an extension for it. 95% of you guys are going to go to the one that's default. So what that is on off, up and down. If you go to the other ones, those are for the digital ones, like a potentiometer or one on a planter, where they actually digitally do it. But we're probably not going to see that in an anhydrous bar. We're probably going to be on default 95% of the time. I did not bring one upstairs, so I'm going to turn it off. We can also turn that off from the main menu or turn it on from the main menu also. So if you want to add one later, it's very easy to do. So we're going to set up a dual valve system here real quick. Valve response rate is how fast it makes rate changes to changes in speed, changes in rate. Your controlled deadband is how far it lets it get off rate before it tries to make a change. In anhydrous, we're not using valve delay. We do not use a valve advance. Our control effort, what that is how hard it tries to turn the valve. So if your control valve is lazy and you don't think it's coming to rate fast enough, you raise it. If it's crazy and you can't get it to lock onto your rate, you lower that number. Typically, a starting number for this would be about 35% is a good place to start on this and work up depending on your driving type and your conditions. We'll hit the next button. Here's where we put our flow meter calibration in. We are going to do this in pounds of N. So most Raven old flow meters are a 172-ish. The new ones with the gray sensor are 344. So we'll type in a new sensor here, 344. Here's our tank setup. So if you want it to alarm when your tanks get empty or warn you when it's starting to get empty, you can put your scale ticket in right there. Your current level, so let's just say we are at 85%, and then our low tank level alarm, so you can set it to go off at 10%. So that way when your tank gets all the way down to 880 pounds, it will actually alarm you on the main screen that your tank's getting low. Here's where we set our rates in here. So we're just going to put, we have to have one rate in here. You do not have to fill out all three if you don't want to. Here's where we can do a predefined or RX, so that would be a prescription map. We can also do a rate bump one, which I do not recommend, or you can do a UT rate entry, which will ignore any other rate entry. So if you get a prescription in there, if you're running boundaries, and you don't want to use that boundary rate, you can actually select the UT rate entry. Always have display smoothing turned on. Here's our off rate alarm. Out of the box, they come at 20%. I recommend leaving that on. Section valve status feedback alarm. What that does on newer toolbars, the fourth wire in the valve harness actually sends a signal back to the RCM to tell it whether it's on or off. If you have older valves mixed in with your newer valves, you want to have this off because it will alarm at you nonstop. I personally tell everybody, unless it's a brand new toolbar, leave it off, because you never know what age or what mix of valves you have on your toolbar. We'll hit the next button. It's going to finish loading. It's going to give us a summary of what we've done. My name is here. We're doing an NH3 tool. We're doing one product, 2 sections, total width of 60 foot, and we do not have a switch box. It is going to reboot the RCM right now. So if your display pops up and says the ISO bus is going offline, do not worry about it. It will come right back, but it is going to reboot the UT right now. So now we're going to get into a little bit of RCM operation. The home button always takes you back to the main run page. No matter whether I'm on this one or anywhere, it always takes us back to the main run page. So over here is our product 1. This is your anhydrous product. If we have a sidekick pump hooked up to it, product 2 will actually be right below it. This button right here is your manual or automatic button. The RCM gives us the ability in anhydrous to manually run the bar. So what that allows us to do is if we're working on the bar in the yard or we want to test valves with the bar discharged, we can slip a test speed in simply by holding down on the speed button right there, and it puts a test speed in. Turn our product on, we hit our master switch, and then we can use the plus and minus arrows to open and close the control valve. In automatic mode, it will automatically control to a rate in the field. One of the big advantages of a manual mode is, let's say we're in the field and we're applying anhydrous and your rate's jumping all over the place and you can't get it to control and you can't figure out whether it's a flow meter, strainer, or a bad tank. Click it into manual, hit the plus button, get your rate close to what you're applying. If it stays steady when you do that, that tells us you probably have a control valve or a wiring issue. If it stays crazy the whole time, then we probably either have a flow meter or a strainer issue, or cooler issue as far as that goes. Flip it back into automatic. When you flip it into automatic, up here we have rate 1, rate 2, and rate 3. As you're going through the field, you can actually tap on that and it will actually change the rate for you on the RCM as you're going through the field. No need to come in here and type. If you want to, you can come up here and type in a manual rate, and it will also do it up there. And the second you hit one of those buttons, it'll take it back to one of your 3 predefined rates. The gears is where everything is set up and done in the RCM. One of the really nice things about an RCM is we can move this from product to product. We can store up to 8 profiles on this RCM. So if your co-op or your farm has an anhydrous bar, a dry spreader, and a side dresser, this one unit can actually store the profiles and run all 3 of those pieces of equipment. It's as simple as hitting change new, selecting a new one, and going through the steps we just went through previously. We can also go in, and there's a few things you have to edit. You can't change after you've got your profile set up if you select the wrong valve type. If you select fast valve and it's a 2-valve system, you have to select edit to go back and change it to a fast valve system. You cannot do that unless you're editing it. If you want to get rid of your profile, you hit the remove button, it asks you yes, and away it goes. Our section setup summary is also another summary spot where we can go see to make sure that our sections are set up correctly. Our precision farming setup. When we come into here, this wizard will allow us to actually set the widths and the offsets, and if there happens to be an overlap on your anhydrous bar, we can also set that up in there. We will never do a product delay on this. If we have an offset hitch for some reason, we can actually set it up so it's left of center and put it in there. We do want to come in here though and set our distance from the rear axle to the application point. And if it's an anhydrous bar with staggered sections, you kind of pick a spot in the middle. You'll never be exactly right, but it'll be close enough for anhydrous, so it'll do a good job. We also want to do a distance from the connection point, which is your hitch, back to the center axle. And that allows us to get your section control, the timing correct when you go in the field. On RCMs, on John Deere's and case monitors, you will not use this. There are some monitors that we actually do the section time on the RCM. For the majority of them, we do not do that. We hit the wrench up here. Here's our control valve setup. So if we need to change some settings on this, if your control valve is not responding how you want, this is where we go so we can change our control effort. Rate sensor setup, that's your flow meter. So you can actually come in here and change your flow meter cal. We can actually do an applied product calibration with this. So if you get your scale tickets, you can actually apply that tank out. The downside of that is you cannot apply again until you get your scale back because it doesn't store it for you. So you hit your applied product calibration, you run that tank off, they have to take the tank back to town right away and scale it and call the numbers back to you. Because if you try to go on to the next tank, you're going to have the next scale ticket added into it to get your flow meter calibration correct. If it's a new bar, the Raven flow meters are really accurate. You shouldn't have to calibrate it right away. Here's where we can change our tank fill settings. You can change the numbers. If you're pulling singles instead of doubles, you can change your numbers there. Another neat thing about the RCM is this whole menu right here, we can set and put anything in there you want. So that's under the display menu setup. You select a tab, and you can change it to anything they have in here. If you're doing dry, you can do density, we can do volume per minute. You can do your total volume applied. You can put your acres in there if you want to know what your acres are, how many acres you've covered. And it actually changes it right there on the screen. If we have a pressure transducer, like I said, we can change it afterwards. We can add one in here. If you got a flaky one that's not working in the field, you can come in here and turn it off so it quits alarming at you all the time. And we're not going to use auxiliary functions at all on anhydrous. This is mostly for dry and air seeder. The bell is for our off rate alarm, and we can also, if you have pressure transducers, you can actually set up pressure alarms also. The drip is where we change our preset rates and where we can also change whether we want to do a UT rate entry or a predefined. The padlock is where we unlock additional features. So if you move this to a strip till bar that has dry and anhydrous, we can actually put an unlock on this that will do multiple products. The 1, 2, 3 is all of our totals. The first one is for the field. The second one is the lifetime of the device. And the third one, we can actually calibrate distance if you're using a wheel speed. Do not attempt this if you are using GPS or radar. The bottom one with the heartbeat with the green bell, this is all of our system information. So if we're diagnosing something, you got a problem, we can actually come in here and see everything that it's doing. There's actually tests we can run. You can energize a system. So if you want to charge your bar before you get going the first time in the year, you can actually pull up in the headland, hit energize system, run through it. It'll actually open the valves and put anhydrous all the way to the knives. The control valve test allows you to open and control the control valve sitting in the yard without dispensing any product. The bleed system test, when you're done for the end of the year or you got to work on it, you can actually go into the bleed system test, sitting still, get yourself upwind and make sure nobody's around you. You can actually hit the bleed system test, hit the master, and it'll actually bleed the anhydrous out of the bar. Don't use demonstration mode, service diagnostic feedback test, or the service menu is Raven's the only one that has access to that. The bell is where we find our errors. So if we have active errors on this, it'll tell us. And if you click on it, it'll highlight it. It'll actually tell you what the error means. So we have switch supply voltage low is an inactive one, and then the other one doesn't want to show up. There you go. We were not calibrated. So that was our other error. The inactive ones, you can always hit clear and they all go away. You can never clear active errors. Next button is just another spot where we can see our summary. And the third one is another summary that tells us control valve type, what our target rate is, valve response rate, and all the basics of the system. Here are some things that are commonly missed on RCMs. This red dot here means that product 1 is off. So if you want to apply anhydrous, or if you have a sidekick pump and you want to pump your inserve in, you have to have the green eye there for it to apply. The second thing is this is manual and automatic. This, when you put it in manual, allows you to manually control the control valve. So some of the advantages of that is if you're having rate fluctuations issues going through the field, you can actually turn this over to manual, lock it into a rate close to what you're applying. If the toolbar stays on that rate, we do not have a flow meter issue. We more than likely have a control valve or a control issue. If it keeps fluctuating after you lock it onto a rate, that tells us we either have tank issue, strainer issue, or a flow meter issue. Another neat function, if we hold down on the 85% right there, it lets us put our product levels in. So if you have an actual scale ticket that tells you exactly what you have in the tank for anhydrous, you can put it in there and it'll say 100% and it'll count down for you. If you're constantly doing doubles and you know you're about 8,800 pounds, if you hit that, it will always take you back to 100% tank level, simply by hitting that bar right there. If you are sitting still and you want to run the anhydrous to blow some smoke to try to fix a problem or bleed the bar, hold down on the mile per hour right there. It pops up to where we can put a test speed in. Shut your section control off. If you do that, you can actually hit your master switch to bleed the bar down. On an RCM that does not have an external switch box, if we hit the switch box button right there, we can actually turn the left or right sections off with the monitor. You hit all on, it turns both sections back on again. This is useful in some situations where maybe you're hanging over a bean field a little bit, or you're double applying and you don't want to turn section control on. There's multiple reasons you'd want to be able to do this. We're going to run through hooking up the connections on the RCM now on the product harness. So on our product harness, on this particular harness, we have 6 sections: control valve, master on off, flow meter, height switch, 2 pressure transducers. So on the harness, everything is tagged to tell you exactly what it is. The only connections that are the same on all of these are the 6 sections and the master on off. The sections run left to right, so driver side to passenger side. The flow meter is a 3-pin connector. This is a Raven flow meter. There is an alignment tab on the top. Hook it together. You'll feel a little snap when you get it locked in. On a 2-valve system, we'll go through the tags. Those are all sections. Here's our master on off. Our master on off valve is the valve that does not have the silver sticker on it. Technically, it is just a standard on-off valve that's job is to shut the flow off to the cooler so you don't have vapor coming out of your cooler the entire way around the end. The control valve connector is the exact opposite of the master valve. The lock ring is on the harness instead of being on the valve. And on most control valves, if it's still there, there's a sticker. 2123 is a standard valve, 743 is a fast valve. Again, there's an alignment pin in the end of the harness and an alignment pin on the valve. Line them up, lock them in. Your sections start. Section 1 is on the left side. It is the same as the master on off. There's a master valve, no silver sticker on it. Line the alignment pins up, slide her in. This is a Raven pressure transducer. They use a triangle Deutsch connector on the top of them. And you will actually use the one that says pressure 1 tree, and it is as simple as snapping it in. Your height switch, if you do choose to run a height switch, has an adapter on it already to a 2-pin weather pack. If you have a triangle one, you can just remove it and add it in. Height switches are available. Another option on these, if you need them, there are extensions available for the section valves. If your valves are out on the wings by your distributors, there's a 6-foot, a 12-foot, and a 24-foot available. In the system menu, we can hit the heartbeat. We can hit the check sheet and go to tests. If we drop down and go to energize system, hit begin, it's warning us that if we do continue on with this, it is going to dispense anhydrous. We hit that. We hit our master switch. We hit start. It will actually open all the ball valves and energize the system and will allow anhydrous to flow through there. So if your new bar that's been sitting all winter, this will allow you to charge the system and have anhydrous all the way to your section valves so that when you start applying, you don't have that 200, 300, 400 feet where you don't apply anything. Another test we can run is a system bleed test. We hit OK. Again, we're going to dispense anhydrous if we follow the instructions. So we need to hit the 1 and the 2 to turn those 2 sections on. We hit the master pedal and we hit start. What this does is it opens the whole system and leaves it open until we tell it to stop. The advantage of this is if you're going to work on a bar, you're storing it for winter, you just want to test stuff in the shop, this is a way to get everything to open up all the way and allow you to either bleed the bar down or make sure that all componentry is working and connected. Hit the master, turns everything off, and we're good to go on to our next job. Thank you for watching. If you have more questions, please give us a call and ask for the Precision Department.